We have one question for the three of you. Have the requirements of users regarding your products changed during the last years, in particular regarding expertise, knowledge, and usability? So I would say we start with Lucia.
Yes, I think there is a change. So the requirements for easy usability is becoming more and more important. So we have to improve our technologies, our functionalities in order to make it possible, the abstraction for our integrators to abstract the parameter settings and so on, the configuration as much easy as possible.
Mm. Okay, what do you think, Herbert?
Can you repeat the question to be explicit?
Have the requirements of users regarding your products changed during the last years, in particular regarding expertise, knowledge, and usability?
That's a very broad question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what changed is that up till about one and a half year ago, we were focusing on the integrators going for greenfield, new installations like the Dematics, Kion, the Van der Lande of this world. So building new installations. And where we see now since 1.5 years, there's a lot of focus on brownfield. So to automate what is already there. And so those are other integrators. They have another knowledge. They are very pragmatic. They don't build the new environment. They just are, let's make it that it has a return on investment. So they are very more pragmatic, going very fast for return on investment for installations, whereas the previous clients, they were more, let's say, academic. How can we in the future build these robotic cells into our facility, which was a much more long-term step than what we are doing right now.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think, Alexei?
Oh, I think that the customers, they always want to have everything under control. So they always want to be able to make changes. They always want to understand what's going on. And actually what changes is probably we are changing ourselves. So we make our software more user-friendly. And as you can see, or as you could see from my presentation, our goal is to deliver this tool to the customer so they can do it. And I think we will see with the future more and more of these tools which require less and less knowledge, which can just work out of the box, and that the customer can just unpack it, put it in his specific environment, and make it run, so that the problem will be solved on the day first or on the day zero, so immediately, so that he can use this system right away. Probably it will not handle 100% case, probably 80, but with time, the quality will be improved. It will be better and better. So this way of bringing automation as soon as possible, I think this is the trend, and this is good.
That's nice, because otherwise we would have all have to be AI experts. So
right.
Very good, yeah. What do you think, without the upswing of AI, would current solutions towards automation of pick and place applications have been possible to all of you? Whoever wants to go first.
Ladies first.
Ladies first, Lucia.
So I think AI will obviously play an important role also in automation. There's still some difficulties in order to integrate it in the automation process. But I think in the future there will also be a change, and also we, MVTech Helken, works on it to improve the algorithm also based on AI technologies and algorithm, and are eager and look forward that those solutions will become more and more popular, and also in automation of process. And there are already plenty of applications in the field.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I agree absolutely, because artificial intelligence for us, it's now the main tool. I mean, it works, and it works good, and it gets better and better every year with every new scientific papers, with every new experiments we're moving forward. And we now started with this two-dimensional picking. It has its own limitation, but it can be done in a lot of cases, and it's in a lot of cases this is what is needed, and artificial intelligence does done this well. But it can also be used for 3D picking, and this is the way we all go. And I think that we are just happy to live in that time that artificial intelligence exists, and we can do our work, and our customer can get profits out of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been in this field for almost 7 years now. So we built a company now with 30 people. I think the biggest compliment we got is when people don't talk about artificial intelligence, they just see a robot picking parcels. It's like having a phone doing voice recognition or face recognition, or like a thermostat in your house, etc. At some point, it becomes a device. People don't see it as like what's in there. They just see it works. I think that's the best compliment we get, and then it gets it's a picking robot, and it works. And so I think that's the best compliment, when really something is established, it's robust, it's out there doing its job. People don't see it as a neural network anymore, and I really liked it.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, true. Okay, so getting back to pick and place, what are the challenges to machine vision with a random pick and place or bin picking application? Just coming back to your presentations again. So we just start with Lucia again, I guess.
So today I'm always the first one.
Yeah.
So there are plenty of challenges, obviously, because we are in the 3D space, and if you increase the dimension, the challenge will also increase. So the one challenge is from the hardware side. So depending on the sensor you use, let's say the better the data quality is, the easier the software will perform, and the more robust will also be the results returned by the software. And the challenge is if you decrease the data quality because you require a more cost-effective sensor. And then there's the trade-off to the software, because the software needs to perform better. And as I showed before, this is it's, let's say, not a standard use case, but it is a use case which often happens. Data quality is very low resolved, and there's a lot of noise, let's say. And then the challenge is to localize the objects, nevertheless, in a very robust way. And this is one of the challenges. There are plenty of other challenges, for instance, reflective objects. Reflective objects leads to missing data in the point cloud. And in the worst case, the software needs to localize objects, even no object is visible in the point cloud. And this is another challenge. So
tricky.
Yeah, this is what our customer would like to do. And therefore, we are also combining 2D informations together with 3D informations, because probably the object is visible in the 2D. Even there's also very reduced information in the 3D point cloud, and therefore it is possible to multiply the advantages of 2D together with the advantages of the 3D point cloud. And this is what we are also trying to, where we try to introduce a deep learning algorithm in order to solve such applications also in a robust and fast manner. So the idea is to multiply the rule-based, the advantages of the rule-based approaches together with the advantages of the deep learning approach. And then obviously results is very good. And this is what we are trying to do next in the next year, let's say. And we have already very good results in such challenges. And obviously, there are much more challenges also with respect to collision or avoidance, path planning, and so on.
Yeah,
so maybe I give the word over to you guys.
Yeah, Herbert, what do you think is the biggest challenge in this field?
Now, I would disagree with, to be honest, with cameras and so on. The cameras have been out there for years, and they gradually evolve, and so hardware gets a little bit better. Robots get cheaper, cameras get a little bit better or cheaper. The GPUs get better and cheaper, but it's all relatively. So I think that the biggest step forward is in integrating the whole pieces. So what you've seen so far is we're like a default. A suction cup, so like just one going down and picking something. So what we support now, certainly with parcels when it's completely unknown, is like a smart gripper, like a hand. So it's really flexible. It has all kinds of grippers, suction cup in different sizes. So when it has to pick up a pencil, it will use a small one. And when it has to pick up a big object, it can use multiple, and it can even choose the different materials. So it becomes a smart gripper, which requires smart software that understands of what is the item or the item I'm picking. So that's it's about combining those things. And we are doing a lot in e-commerce, like say the AutoStore system, where they use dividers. So we have to go into the divider. So we have also to do collision avoidance, path planning. We need to do stacking. So we even stack in a bag. So in the Netherlands we have a company called Picnic. They pick groceries. They're also coming to Germany, so they provide grocery locally with electric cars. A very good business model. So my prediction, they will be big in Europe, but they place those groceries in plastic bags. So that's another challenge which we solved. So maybe I like to reflect on what Lucia said earlier, that within the Halcon environment, you had to set your maximum gap and the minimum maximum box size, etc., which is all rule-based to find boxes, right? And this is something that would never, ever work in parcel handling because it's always unknown, completely unknown. If you go to DHL, Deutsche Post, it's like a war zone. It's everything, car tires, just imagine we could all wrap something and ship it. So it will completely be unknown. And in like clients as Amazon, they have millions and millions of products. So you can never ever define a box should be like this or this big or this. The smallest is 10 by 10 centimeters. 3 millimeters thick, and the biggest is 70 pounds, so 32 kilos, and it can be very long and ugly. It's so the logistics, the environment, the real big environment is it's everything. So you either have a good neural network and package that can really deal with the variation, or you focus on very small, dedicated, controlled environment like the car industry, where I can expect these kind of boxes, but there can always be a dent. Somebody can hit in a truck, and it will be different because then the box will be dented. So, we've been in this business for 5-7 years. It is tough, and it's really you need to do it with a neural network, and maybe later on you can apply some heuristics like, okay, then it must be a box, and then we deal with it this way. But you start with from the chaos, what you see, to get understanding, and that's why you use a neural network.
Okay, thanks. Alexei, what do you think about it?
Oh, that was awesome. The answer was awesome, both of you. And I also praise the artificial intelligence, and I think this is the way to go. And yeah, one challenge is technological, to make it better, to make better artificial intelligence, to train with more data and so on. And the other challenge, as Herbert also said, is to make this user-friendly, to make this accessible for normal people so that they can just take it, put in objects, and it will start to work right away. So in our example, I have to move the robot with a hand, good, but probably it will be better if I will just point with my finger onto that object, and this also will be analyzed by artificial intelligence. So I think the communication, the integration into the production, the integration to people's life in logistics and other areas is very challenging. I think we will see more. Like using 3D glasses, using a combination of different cameras and so on and so forth.
Okay, as we see, there are different applications or approaches for different applications. So thank you for your answers. And Herbert, there is a question for you. It says, Herbert, you said that customers are just happy when it works, but are there also customers who have concerns when they learn that AI is making the decision?
Not really, to be honest. First of all, we are in the business of, I call it de-recruitment, because we de-recruit people. They are not necessary anymore, but it's often in a really dark environment, or not a nice environment. If you see where people are working, where our robots are being installed, you don't want to. I don't think it's really human to work there at night and leave your family at home. So of course it's sensitive, because when we go there and when we install, when our systems are installed, it will replace human labor. But up till now, some areas it's a bit sensitive, but mostly it's really accepted, and they like it, and they give it a name. They give the robot a name, and it's helping them. And then so logistics will become like now you have where all the computers are, like all the servers. It's a big black box, and there are a few people controlling all the servers, like a data warehouse. And that will happen in logistics as well. So the operation will be a dark store in next few years, let's say 4 or 5 years, and there is some people controlling the robots. So the work will change. But AI is just, it's like I said, it's not named AI anymore. It's just a robot picking those things, and yeah.
Okay, thank you. So there are no more questions right now. Is there another question, or would you guys like to add something?
I mean, I can add to this artificial intelligence thing. So there are, I think, two things. First, this is moral thing. Yeah. So one, intellect, artificial replaces the human. I also saw this. The other thing is that when people recognize that you use artificial intelligence, they often become afraid because we don't know what's happening inside. So if something goes wrong, nobody can explain why is it so. Or it is not so easy to explain, so you have to use tooling for that. And if you use the rule-based programming, you can say, okay, you see we cannot find the line because the parameters are this and that, and your lighting condition change it. If we use artificial intelligence, it's not so easy. We just don't know. We can do more tests to prove. So we make theories and we can do more tests. But this hearing from us as developers, we don't know. It's just like that. Is somehow discouraging the customer. But with time, they recognize that this is just better. It works better. And if something goes wrong, we can just add few more pictures to the training. And after a session of training, it will work fine. And even after this, we might even find the issue, right? So for example, we have a software which classifies an object, and this classification suddenly broke down, and we had no idea why it's like that. And then we find out that on the new images, there was one small pin which has different color. And it was important for artificial intelligence because it was trained on these pins. And then we recognized that, and that's it. And nobody saw that as a human, but artificial intelligence did because it pays attention.
So yeah, a big thank you to all of you. Thank you, Alexei. Thank you, Lucia, and thank you, Herbert.